G'day, I'm Patrick from Douglas Fir Design. Welcome to the Router Bits. I'm going to show you how to use a box joint bit to make shapes other than the squares that you're used to seeing these used for. If you haven't watched our previous video, which is specifically about setting up the box joint bit, go and watch that. It just goes through all the setup and will really make this process a lot simpler. The basic difference is, instead of using the square jig that I made for your square boxes, we're going to use a jig which is set at 30 degrees that allows you to cut the correct angles for, in this case, a triangle. Now, everything that I'm saying here can be applied to making more complicated multi-sided objects using this same box joint. You just need to change the angles accordingly. So keep that in mind. This object that I made was more just a test of the principle of the thing. It's not terribly useful. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to use it for yet, but you can see the principle being applied, and you could make this into a tray. You could expand this out into making like a 6-sided or 8-sided object. You could make that into a tray. You could make a billiard. What is that object called that holds the billiard balls? Some of you will know. I'm sure you'll email me about it later. But anyway, we'll go through the setup now. To do this join, there's two things that you need to do. At least with a triangle, and this kind of applies to the other shapes that you might try and make as well. For a triangle, you're going to need 3 pieces, obviously, and you're going to need the end of each of those pieces to be cut at 30 degrees. I just did that on the drop saw. And so you basically want it so that if you weren't doing a finger joint, or a box joint, sorry, these would all line up and give you those nice apexes that we're looking for. The next thing you need to do is make this really simple jig. It's very similar to the jig we used for the square box joints, but instead of being at a 90-degree angle, it's set at a 30-degree angle, which allows us to cut our finger joints really neatly for those triangle pieces. So you've got a bottom plate with that cut. You can just do that on a drop saw, and then this additional fence which allows you to clamp your pieces to it. And I've put double-sided tape and some fine sandpaper on that fence to stop these wiggling around when I clamp them. So we've got the height of the router bit set so that the bottom edge of the bottom blade is flush with the table, and we've got the fence set so that with the tooth rotated to its most exposed position, there's just a little bit more tooth than the thickness of this timber, and that means that you're going to have a little bit more material on the little fingers that are exposed that you can just shave off or sand off afterwards rather than having them too short. It's always better to have them slightly too long. Once you've got all of that set, we're going to label these pieces in the position that you want them in so that you know which ones need to be cut up and which ones need to be cut downwards, because with these finger joint bit with this thickness of timber, our first cut on our piece A is going to be cut with the top face facing up, and our matching cut that is going to join that is cut with the second piece here with the top face facing down, and that's how you get them to match up. So I'm going to label them so that I can figure that out later, and then I'm going to put all of the first pieces which are going to face up, down. I'm going to do that cut. I'm going to flip them around so that all of the second pieces which are going to have that cut with the face downwards, put them all together and do the second pass, and they'll all join up perfectly. Hopefully. No, they definitely will. So this went together beautifully. Now I have 2 of them, still don't quite know what they're for, but I want to talk really quickly about how to do these with different angles. To do a 6-sided shape, instead of cutting a 30-degree angle for all of these pieces on the drop saw, you're actually going to cut a 15-degree angle, which brings you closer to that 0 point on the drop saw, which is actually 90 degrees. It's confusing the way they do that. but you're going to need 6 pieces cut at 15 degrees. You're going to arrange them in the same way, so not like a miter joint where those angles meet, but more like I had arranged these originally where they all cascade around each other. Then you're going to have to make another one of these where instead of having a 30-degree angle, it's going to be 15 degrees, so about that angle, 15 degrees off 90 to be clear. And then the process is all exactly the same. You're going to create your 6-sided shape, glue it all together, and then put some sort of bottom tray in there as well. So I can't wait to see what you guys come up with. I hope you have fun making some interesting trays and so forth. This is a great bit, very versatile. You're really only limited by your imagination and how many jigs you want to create. Maybe you could even do some shapes that were all different angles together. You just have to be good at maths and make it accurate and figure it out. But you can pick up this bit itself at TimberCon, at timbercon.com.au, or we have a link just at the bottom of the video here. Otherwise, if you're in Perth and Melbourne, you can grab one in their stores.